Hi, this is Carol, president of IE-CAMFT, and I'm here today with Georgia King to talk about an immigration training she's going to be doing for us. And I'm excited because this is the stuff I do as well. So it's just at my heart the work that I get to do. So Georgia, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
Sure. Carol, thanks so much for having me. It's such a delight to meet you here. So, again, my name is Georgia King, and I'm a clinical social worker and psychotherapist in Los Angeles. And over time, I have been specializing in immigration evaluations. So, these clinical evaluations for various immigration court cases. That isn't how I started. I thought I would just be doing therapy with individuals and families, and then kind of fell into the work by accident. And it's some of the most meaningful work I've ever done.
Yeah, it's interesting because we were talking about our stories earlier. We both fell into it the same way by having somebody in our building that knew about it. And my heart has always been for the immigrants. I just didn't really realize. And then since then, I couldn't even imagine. Do you know how many reports you've done? Because I just stopped counting a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. It's once you get past 100 and beyond. Yeah, it just. I was going to add. I love this chance just to talk to you and to try to get the word out more that these opportunities exist. Whether someone comes to the camp training, in February or whatever their path is. But I feel like it's really appalling that therapists don't know about these opportunities. I had no idea. It's not something that they mentioned in grad school. And if I hadn't had this lawyer just happen to ask me for an evaluation, I would have had no idea. And I know you've had this experience over and over of just there's nothing like it to do this work with a client. You meet with them a couple times, a few times, you write this report. It provides evidence for their case. It's so often the deal breaker for the case.
Yeah.
This is, and that's what I hear from lawyers. It's your report that we based the case on. This is what they have. And then when you find out that it was successful, it
Right.
it's a feeling like no other. And honestly, before this work, I would have thought that I'd have to join the Peace Corps or go abroad to do this kind of
Right.
life-saving work,
Right. Right.
where you're helping refugees get asylum who
Mhm.
would be tortured or killed if they had to go back to their home country, or you're helping a family stay together. I had no idea that I could do this from my living room
Mhm.
over a video call. I had no idea.
Right. I understand completely. I mean, I feel the same way. It is a privilege to work with these clients. It really, really is. And sometimes I get to run into them and they run screaming at me, I got approved. And when that happens, that is just so great. And I always ask them to let me know, but what I found is that most of them don't, because once they get approved, they just go on with their life.
Yes,
And
yes,
so I
yeah.
asked attorneys about that, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't hear back either."
Yeah, sometimes no news is good news, that someone is just moving forward in their life and that's where they are. And I was going to add, and again, it's such a, I'm so grateful for the chance to talk to you because it's rare that I get to talk to a colleague who's doing this work. Certainly more therapists are finding out about it, but it's still a relatively small niche, in the scheme of things.
Mhm.
One of my very first cases was with a lesbian woman from Kenya,
Oh yeah.
and
Mhm.
as you are aware, you work with a number of folks who are part of the LGBTQ community, and it was such an honor to work on her case, to hear her story, put her story into words, and then document her very real PTSD symptoms. And this is what gives evidence for her case, because she doesn't have physical scars, but
Mhm.
what she has are these invisible scars of PTSD. And this was one where I had a chance to write the report, and I also had a chance to go to court for her case, which in my experience has been pretty rare. It's
Yeah.
not, the work isn't really based on court, but this was one of the few times that I've been. And so this was really the kind of situation where if she had not won her case, she would go back to Kenya and she would either live a life of secrecy, and not have close relationships in her life, or she would have been likely killed. She would have likely lost her life. And so to be there when you hear the verdict and you hear that it's successful, there's just no, I'm kind of addicted to that feeling. Like I just can't get enough of it.
Well, you know what I was thinking of, like when they go to do their packets and they get a list from the attorney or the agent, and one of the last things on there is psychological evaluation, not required, but
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah.
And in that packet, it says, you know, they need to find those character references from, you know, the letters that they, from their friends and family.
Hmm.
But so many lawyers don't like emphasize you need that these days.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And I feel like there's some amount of, when I'm reaching out to lawyers in my community or doing networking, I'll give them a sample of what I do or talk about my approach, because not all lawyers realize that this can make their job so much easier. It makes what they do so much easier.
Mhm.
And I also, one thing that's exciting to me now is that there are more people, more therapists in the field, and there are trainings like what you offer and what I offer, where people can really get a groundwork that is so solid. And before this, therapists would just kind of wing it. I think that still happens a good deal, where a therapist says to themselves, "Oh, well, I've written tons of mental health assessments, so I'll just do a mental health assessment for this." They provide a list of symptoms, a diagnosis, and that's it. It's maybe 2 pages.
Uh,
And
Sometimes I hear a paragraph.
right, I know, I think we feel similar. It's appalling. And it's probably better than nothing, but it doesn't hold a candle to what you can do when you know what these cases are built on, what to address. You can tailor your assessment to each of the main points of the case.
Yeah.
And I was saying this to you earlier, for most immigrants, this is their one shot. This is their shot to get asylum or to keep their family together, and they deserve the very best shot that they can get. And when we have trainings like these, then therapists can learn what's possible and then go from there, and it is just night and day different from what you can do without. So
Right. I was thinking, I have heard some people get like 2 paragraphs and it's all about the clinician. Like she's well trained in this and that. And I'm like, what? And then you paid what? And, you know, and really on average, mine are 13 to 20 pages.
yes,
And
yeah,
so
similar.
it's a big deal. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, yeah,
So it ain't no joke. I
yeah.
mean, and that's the thing is that these reports, like I'm an author. I mean, we're doing a narrative of their lives so that they can, really take that client and separate them from all the other immigrants and recognize they have a unique story.
Absolutely. No, I think our approach is very similar. I'm always sort of coming at it as a detective a little bit, like what
Mhm.
sets this case apart? Why does this person need asylum? What have they been through? And I'm sure you find this, often the client will meet with their lawyer for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And often these are good lawyers even, but they just, their caseload is astronomical.
Mhm.
And we're the only ones who have the training, the time, the skills to be able to help them tell their story.
Mhm.
And, I say this sometimes, that it's really easy to deport someone if they're just a name on a page. But if they are a living, breathing person in front of you, you hear their story, you get the details of what they've been through. It's a lot harder to deport someone when they're that alive for you, and we can bring their story to life. That's what we get to do.
Yeah, that's what we get to do, and it's such a privilege.
It is. It is.
It really is. So I think that, there's so many immigrants out there like that are just silently there, scared to death that ICE is going to come any minute.
Yeah,
And there's enough work to go around for all of us.
absolutely.
These people
Absolutely.
need help.
And there's such a wide range of opportunities, and that's something that I think is really, it's one of the many kind of amazing things about this niche of work, because you can do pro bono work for people
Mhm.
who could never afford a full fee evaluation.
Right.
These are people who escaped with just the clothes on their backs, and so you can do some of the most meaningful and urgently needed pro bono work. And then I work with many wealthier immigrants who can do a full fee assessment. I work with folks who have a PhD or an MBA, or they're married
Mhm.
to a computer scientist. And I think sometimes people, therapists don't realize how diverse of a group it is, immigrants who need our services. And there's certainly the pro bono work, but then there are people from all over the world. I work with a lot of clients from Iran, India
Mhm.
recently,
Mhm.
Kenya, all over.
Yeah.
And they have all different backgrounds. And so I find that this is a really amazing way to stabilize private practice business and also have the breathing room financially where you can do pro bono work. And that's one of the things I really cherish about this. And
Yeah.
it's something that, this work, as it is for you, I'm sure, like this is deeply in line with my own values.
Yes.
I'm always acknowledging and thinking of the privilege that I have as a white person, as someone who was born a US citizen, access to education. It's really important to me to have this strong intention and commitment to social and racial justice. And this is a way that I can contribute to that and try to use my privilege in a way that adds more justice to the world. And that's one of the many things that I love about the work.
Mhm. Yeah, the one thing I finally realized, I've been doing this work for a while. My dad was from England, and I never got to know him because he went back and lived in Europe. So I am the child that was left behind. So,
Oh,
I didn't realize that that's when my heart was so big into it. When I finally realized it, it made perfect sense.
yes.
That
Yeah, absolutely.
I get it. Like, I don't want their families separated. I mean, I may look, whatever, but I'm like 97% Russian Jewish. So, I mean, I have my own
Yeah,
culture that you can't
yeah,
see on me.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, I love to learn about cultures, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, similar. I was going to add too, we were talking about this before. I love that we have a lot of parallels in our journeys. I love this.
Mhm.
And what happened for me as far as starting my training center, I had more and more therapists asking me how to do these evaluations. And so it made sense to go ahead and start my curriculum, my workshops. And at this point, that's become one of the main focuses of my business. I love the chance to support therapists. I love helping them write really effective evaluations, helping them launch a thriving private practice business. And I provide a lot of ongoing support. So after someone does my workshops, I have a private Facebook group they're a part of. I offer monthly consultation calls. So that's really important to me because I know when I was starting out, 2012, um, there was no one. I couldn't find any therapist doing this work, and it was so lonely. Um, I think, like you, I learned how to do the assessments by talking to the immigration lawyers and combining my clinical skills with what they were telling me about immigration law. So my training center is really, it's really based on providing the support I wish I had had when I was
Mhm.
starting out. And I love it. I love helping people get started, helping them really thrive as they go along. I'm super available by email, text, what have you,
Mhm.
because I want them to know that they have this support. And I remember for me, I had to really overcome some insecurity to get started. It felt intimidating. These are lawyers. They have more education than it just felt sort of intimidating.
Mhm.
And I'm always telling the therapist I work with, you can do this. You've done a ton of evaluations. This is just a new
Mhm.
context. You
Mhm.
can step into this professional role. You can charge what you charge for these assessments, and feel confident about it. So that's one of the things that I love about it. Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
because part of my initial package, and I'm guessing yours too, is the release that I can speak with the agent or attorney. Because I never know. Sometimes they come into me and they say, "This is my case," and I go, "Wait, that's not a good case. Let me talk to your attorney."
Yes,
So
yeah.
I have them, discussion about, what would be the best. Could we go asylum? Is there some way? Because they're kind of trying to do something that I can see will crash and burn. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the detective and or there.
Mm-hmm.
I was pre-law years ago, and so I mean that's that person. Me is like we've got to give them a good case, a compelling case.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're going to be speaking on February 26th, 9 to 11,
Yes,
IE-CAMFT.
that's great.
And, we do send these out all over the country because it's
Mm,
not just therapists here, it's therapists anywhere. Whether you get
exactly.
CEUs or don't get CEUs, you get a good feel for the, the work that she does. And that you too can, help as well. But you got to have a calling. I'm really really a stickler about this. If you don't have a calling,
Absolutely.
you're going to get burnout because you hear trauma stories all the time. So I I'm always ready for that, and I'm sure you are too. That's why I have the Trauma and Healing Foundation. It's like I understand trauma, so and I always recommend that they get their own therapy, but we sneak it in a little bit there, don't we?
Yes, yeah, I hear that a lot where someone gets a feeling of support, relief. They've never talked to anyone about this before.
Oh yeah,
And
no, because their
yeah,
culture tells them not to.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we will post Georgia's website. I need all your information. I think we have some of it online already. And I'll be posting on IE-CAMFT and on some of the other groups, but tell somebody that may need this information that she's going to be speaking on the 26th, and you can sign up if you are a guest. It's $20. And if you're a member of IE-CAMFT, it's free. So however you'd like to do it, we'd love to have you there. And with that
And
said, go ahead.
folks, I was just going to add one last thing. Folks are also welcome to get in touch if I can answer questions beforehand. You can find my website at therapistimmigrationtraining.com. Again, Georgia King, you can look me up and find me that way.
Mhm.
But I'm glad to provide any kind of info and support. I sometimes do other kind of briefer info sessions. So
Mhm.
I'm very available, and I love getting to spread the word about this amazing work.
Yes, I'm with you. I do the same thing. I coach and help them as best as I can. So yeah, I knew we had the same heart. I just never got a chance to meet you.
Okay.
All right. So you guys, the other thing is please stay safe as much as possible. This is no joke right now. I've lost too many friends. And so just keep that in mind, um, that it's important that we're all doing our due diligence not to get COVID fatigue
Absolutely.
because it's happening everywhere.
100%.
So with that said, thank you so much, Georgia. I'm glad to meet you, and we will see you at the training soon.
Thank you so much, Carol. It's such a delight to meet you too.
You're welcome. 1 second. Stop recording.